Hey everyone, super excited to have everybody here today. We'll give everybody a few minutes to get started. We've got a big audience tracking today, so we're kicking things off and very excited you're here today to go over Discovering Hidden Talent Pools, brought to you by Intel, an amazing team of an all-star panel. And a huge thanks for everyone. We saw a lot of activity on social media, folks in talent acquisition sharing with their LinkedIn networks. We saw the registrants go quite a bit over the last few days, and this looks to be one of the most heavily attended webinars that we've hosted in the last few years. So a lot of content to share today. We also have a lot of data-driven slides. There will be a lot of content you can take away back to your different TA teams. So we're excited for everybody to walk away with different learnings. And again, bring us collectively together to know more about kind of the current state of the market and how we can access pools together. All right. And just as a reminder, we'll be able to make this an interactive session. So again, we want to make sure that if you see, you should be able to access both the chat and the Q&A. We'll make sure that we are monitoring questions throughout the presentation, but we also have a section at the end for Q&A. So feel free to ask your questions. We'll try and get to everything live as we can, and if not, save it for the end for the Q&A as well too. But we have the most fun with these sessions being very interactive. And again, we've got an amazing audience today. So we're excited to hear your thoughts and your opinions, and also to share some of your best practices on the different sections around hidden talent pools. So we're very excited about that. All right, a huge thank you to everyone that took time out of their busy days to join today's session. As I talked about, we're seeing people joining left and right, so it's nice. We've well over 100 people on the webinar right now, but we have close to 400 that registered. We anticipate over 200 on this webinar, hopefully closer to 300 that are able to join live. But we really appreciate, we know how busy everybody is in the state of talent acquisition, and very excited for our all-star panel with both Margie and Preeti joining us from their companies, giving their perspectives as well. What I really liked seeing as well when going through the registrant list was there's actually hundreds of individuals on here from different leading talent acquisition divisions for large companies that are also Intel customers. So really cool to see a lot of our existing customers coming in that have worked with Intel before, but also individuals that are coming to learn more about the content and best practices. So really quickly, as we go ahead and get started, we wanted to start with the poll question. So which hidden talent pool do you want to see grow the most in 2021? There's a lot of really core things on here. We're going to touch on a lot of these today. We also have 3 core sections today we're going to discuss to show hidden talent pools. And as an added bonus at the end, we've got a hidden talent pool that you may have not considered, which could be a great place to find your next great hire from. So that's going to be coming at the end of today's presentation as well. So please take a few minutes and go ahead and vote on which of the core hidden talent pools you are most interested in. And while we're doing that, we're still seeing actually a large number of people are still joining. So while you're voting on the poll question, a quick heads up for those few of you that do not know much about Intel, you might know our name, but for those of you that are not current customers, we are the leading tool to source, recruit, and engage talent. We've been around for over a decade. We've got a deep database of over 550 million profiles, all powered by our analytics. So we have everybody you'd want to find on LinkedIn, including about 100 million profiles that are not on LinkedIn. So we're utilized by a large portion of the Fortune 500. And what's really great about Intel is because we've been around for so long is we're powered by our world-class matching AI. Our machine learning and algorithms, especially in regards to diversity and underrepresented groups for recruiting, has been running for almost 3 or 4 years longer than any of our competitors. So we have a deep level of machine learning. In fact, when you're sourcing, we can actually predict the candidate's next role with a high level of accuracy. But what's even more powerful is we can actually tell you when they're more likely to move. We've got a couple of new employees on the Intel team that are former recruiters. First thing they did was look themselves up and say, oh my gosh, I was more likely to move. You reached out and I was ready to have the conversation. So I know Preeti will cover some here in a little bit as well, as she's a customer also, but some of the core elements are the candidate highlights. Unlike LinkedIn, all the data that we have comes across 35 different social sites. So we're getting a full accurate picture on the individual versus just self-reported information. Deep level badges for diversity, for different champions for different areas. We also have peer-based skills. We know that a lot of our customers, in general, love the idea that on average, women tend to list less skills than men. The nice part about Intel, it levels the playing field. So if there's a female engineer from Google and she might have left out a few skills on her profile, we can infer by seeing, hundreds of profiles in her division over the years that to be in her division, she has these skills. We'll infer those skills. So now when you do a search, she's now the number 1 or 2 person on the list and not number 34 or 35. So it's a really great way to level the playing field when it comes to peer-based skills. And then unbiased sourcing. You have the ability to turn off your own unconscious bias. You have the ability to remove pictures, remove names, remove gender, just to look at talent for talent's sake. We have a lot of our customers that'll spend unbiased sourcing mode Fridays. We'll turn this on for a few hours and just source on just talent alone. And then our inclusive language. We have millions of emails sent out through Intello, and we can actually analyze to say, hey, be careful. This is a little more gender bias in this capacity, and it'll offer suggestions. A lot of our folks will use this before they reach out to candidates inside of Intello, but also when they'll use this as well when they're going to send an internal message to their team or when they're going to reach out on LinkedIn or a different medium. It's a great way to analyze and really take out a lot of the bias that might come with messaging as well. So it's really powerful. And the last thing I'll share, and one of my favorite things, we launched this, one of the most popular things that we've launched in the last year and a half, talent pool insights. We were all trying to find hidden talent pools in different areas. With Intel, you can actually look at a region or a competitor and break down exactly where you want to find that talent. It'll give you a breakdown by race and ethnicity. You can filter for diversity, all the different categories, and then you can really actually drill down into this and actually see all the profiles. I was talking to a chief diversity officer for a large pharmaceutical company a couple months ago, and they're opening a plant on the East Coast. A year before they even open, they're already using talent pool insights to go in and recruit all their critical roles and start the conversations. I think it's really powerful. And I know, when I was a head of sourcing for a large Fortune 500 company, I would have loved the idea that as a sourcer or recruiter, I could actually export this report in a clean PDF and share it with an executive or an HR business partner. I was actually talking the other day to a key leader, sourcing leader, Kim Wilkes, who I believe is on this webinar as well as an attendee, but she's done an amazing job leveraging technology and innovation. And you'll probably see her on a future webinar, but she literally has grown her sourcing team from 20 to 90 in the last year. And they utilize the talent pool insight reports to really help out to look at the different talent segments they have. So again, for those of you that are customers of Intel, as VP of Customer Success, I just wanted to say thank you. For everybody else, hopefully that was a good snapshot of the different things that Intel offers, but very excited today to jump into the webinar. So the whole reason we're here today, I've been in talent acquisition for my entire career. I spent the first decade in global TA leadership roles. I spent the last 6 years building global TA strategies across 6 continents, hundreds of TA leaders for various companies. The last year and a half has been the most challenging that I've seen, at least in my 15 years in the industry. And I'm sure a lot of you will agree as well. We know the recruiting struggle is real. We know that highly skilled labor is increasingly more passive. We know that there's a huge number of requisitions. Everyone I talk to in recruiting right now is having a really tough time with the high level of requisitions. Some of the folks I'm talking to are doing 50% more requisitions than they're used to. A lot of that for a lot of different reasons, due to employee turnover, due to TA team moving and turnover. And then the diversity initiative. This is one of the things that I love, that for the last 3 or 4 years, diversity always is really gone from more of a nice to have to a critical and core element to every single initiative, powering the different talent acquisition initiatives for all of our customers. And then again, being able to engage with passive candidates. The reality is, the best talent out there wants to be engaged with. It's not really a world anymore where you can really go through the thousands of applicants for your different roles to find that kind of that needle in a haystack. You've got to be able to engage with your passive talent, and knowing how to reach out to those hidden talent pools and identify is extremely critical. And yeah, great question, Nelson. Everything will be recorded. And Kim, good to see you on there as well too. So I thought this was a really fascinating way to kick us off. We know the pain is real. I know anecdotally from talking to 5 to 10 TA leaders every week, having conversations with friends in TA, I know that it's been rough for everybody here. So again, I definitely appreciate you being on this call to learn more and to learn from different leaders that we've assembled. But the reality is, 98% of TA leaders have said the pandemic has transformed their role. I think that's absolutely correct. You're going to hear from Margie, from Preeti on how that's affected them and their companies. But the reality is 70% say this has been one of the most challenging years of their career. And you think about that, there are so many challenges right now. I think, a silver lining to that is I'm seeing a lot of innovation, and I'm seeing a lot more of collective of people sharing best practices. So I'm seeing a lot more people from different companies sharing their best ideas, getting that out there today. And we're excited to be that bridge today to offer a lot of different ways to make things successful. And the whole reason we're focused on hidden talent pools is we know how critical it is for recruiting teams. The idea that it takes 15 hours a week to source for a single role. The idea that 47% of recruiters say they can't find qualified candidates. The idea that probably a third of the companies on this call, they lack the budget to hit their hiring goals. We want to make sure that you can uncover hidden talent pools and you have that your ability to make sure that you can do your job. And a lot of times you're in a place with less resources, with a harder job to do with less resources. We want to be that bridge. We want to help out today. We want to share more. So I'm extremely excited to share today's panel. We've got an amazing group assembled today. So I wanted to first introduce Margie Clark, Talent Acquisition Manager and Senior Executive Recruiter for Deluxe.
Hey, good afternoon. And I'm going to apologize in advance. We've got some construction going on. So if you hear any noise, that's what it is. But glad to be here. Thanks for having me participate in this initiative. But I've been with Deluxe Corporation for 19 years. And during that 19 years, we've been transforming and diversifying. And we are a trusted business technology company. And we, along with everyone, all of our fellow recruiters, have had our challenges this year. And so we're excited to talk with all of you today.
That's awesome. Thanks, Margie. Preeti, I always love that you've got something space related behind you. I'm always like, what is she going to have that is space related? It's always fantastic.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Preeti, and I'm a senior talent sourcer at Intuitive. For those who don't know about Intuitive, we are the pioneers of the Da Vinci medical robotic system that performs minimally invasive surgeries. I've been with this company for the past 4.5 years, and it's been an amazing journey so far with a company that is aligned and driven by its mission of saving a patient's life. I bring in 13 years of experience in talent acquisition, and I have also worked as a Java developer in the beginning of my career. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. And I love the idea that you started out as a Java developer. You don't see that. You don't hear that very often in the world. You sometimes will see like HR operations move over into recruiting. You'll see sales move into recruiting. You rarely hear Java developer into recruiting. I absolutely love that. And it definitely explains, like, I love how analytical you are with everything as well too. So that's wonderful. Thank you. So really excited to have our panel today. My background, my name is Andre Boulay. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success at Intello. But as I said before, I spent my entire career in talent acquisition, ran a global sourcing team for a large division of Salesforce, spent the last 6 years working in recruiting technology companies, 2 different companies to build out new divisions to build strategy. So I've had the fortunate roles to actually pop the hood, hear what everybody else around the world is doing, grab best practices, and really apply that to what's going on. So very excited about the team we have today, and we will kick off with the first hidden talent pool. Give me 1 second. Go back to the presentation. All right, so we know one of the most essential hidden talent pools out right now is around underrepresented groups. We see in conversations, it's funny, everybody I talk to, this is always one of the top 1 or 2 topics that comes up in the last 2 years, especially for how our companies working to source, attract, hire, and retain underrepresented groups. There's a deep level of talent there that's been ignored for a long time, and again, the focus has been critical and essential. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about this. I know, Preeti, you've done an amazing job with the work at Intuitive Surgical and the focus that you have. You had some great talking points, but would love to hear from you. What are ways that Intuitive Surgical and your teams are sourcing hidden talent pools and diverse talent pools in this capacity?
Sure, Andre. So a couple of things before I actually start with what Intuitive has been doing. So when it comes to hiring underrepresented talent, it really depends on if the company is really invested and ready to put in diversity efforts. So change starts from within. Every organization is different, we know that. And as a company, it needs to first define its definition of diversity and how deeply does it really take care of its people, and how it can bring those people to your workplace. So Intuitive has always been a very diverse and inclusive company right from the very beginning. But from the past few years, we really wanted to augment it more. We wanted to really want to kind of expand the talent pool further. So what we have been doing is right from the recruiting strategy meeting, or the, you can call it as an intake meeting, this initiative starts. So the sources and the recruiters, they kind of engage with the hiring manager. They ask a lot of questions on the team dynamics and the diversity, and if there is a need within the team to bring in a diverse candidate, and it starts from there. Also, we also ask them questions like, if you have a diverse interview panel in the team, and can it be done? So all those questions, and also the sources and the recruiters, they're ready with their diversity talent map. So we have Entolo, we have LinkedIn Talent Insights, where we kind of pull in reports also from Claro, which we normally use it for our diversity reports. So we are ready with those talent maps. We show them like, here is where your talent lies. So do you really want to expand that goal? Do you want to look in more further into that? So those are some of the initiatives that the sources and recruiters have been taking. And also there are certain times when, you cannot really depend on medical device alone, because ours is a medical device company. There are certain skill sets within the candidates which are transferable. So look for those transferable skills in other industries and bring them in. And so those are some of the things. And also our job positions have become more inclusive. We are using more gender neutral language in our job positions. We also have a very strong internal referral program, and a structured interview guide is always there. And also at the same time, we as sources, we use Entolo diversity searches, like how Andre was mentioning about the skill feature, the similar skill feature, the unbiased mode, the highlights option. I've used that in order to kind of pull in diverse candidates into our talent pool. One of the things that I really love about Entolo is the gender neutral wording that we normally use in the email templates while sending out emails to the candidates. And together with that, we have also built in a Boolean search guide, which is like a central repository guide, which has all the Boolean searches for all of the roles. We have also incorporated underrepresented talent Boolean searches in that as well. So right now, Intuitive has been, recently has taken a lot of initiatives in partnering with all the ERG groups. Like, how do we build a strategy and process to recruit diverse talent? Like, could we start in like a referral program within ERGs, like an internal referral program? So could we do that? And also last year we did a lot of those initiatives. We actually launched our new career website, and that shows instances of diversity in company life. We launched inclusive videos and also came up with more initiative to let the broader audience know that we are an inclusive team, and we welcome diverse talent. So these are some of the things that the company has been doing. And recently, I have been also engaged in certain projects like, how do I develop talent communities, how we all develop that. So those are some of the things. And also, before, I know I can go on and on.
I've not tugged my ear yet. You keep going. We're good for time.
Yeah. So I can go on and on, but some of the best practices that I have noticed as a sourcer: don't rely on one source. Like, suppose if you feel like your referral program is strong, don't rely on that. There are other places to look at. So go for that. Be intuitive and search where are the other places that you have not tapped. So look at the various options that you can. And there are several ways you could do that. You could either play around the various tools that your organization currently has, and also don't ever hesitate to attend conferences, webinars like these in order to understand where you could look for diverse talent. So do that. And also data. So that is something that I would really touch base on. Measure all your diversity goals every time in order to understand what could be done, what went wrong, and what could be done in a much more better way in order to bring in more diverse talent into your organization. So just want to stop there.
No, that's great. I think you could, I definitely, that's fantastic. And I love hearing that. I was talking to a chief diversity leader at Amazon the other day, and he was just saying how important authenticity is, right? So being able to show real photos, being able to, a lot of, the worst thing you can do is like spend a lot of money in marketing saying, hey, we're hiring for diversity, and find out those are all stock images, right? Use the employees that you have, be authentic. And if you say, listen, it's a new initiative of ours, we haven't done well in the past, address that and be honest up front. You're going to have a much better interaction with candidates. And I love the idea of looking at transferable skills. Like the idea of that is so critical, because again, folks that are like, oh, someone has to be just, everybody is more than just a resume matched to a job description, right? Looking for transferable skills. Hey, we've had a lot of individuals that do very well that are from a different pack. I love that you look outside of your industry as well too. That's really critical. And a lot of good stuff to take away from there. But Margie, I'd love to hear what the team at Deluxe. I know you're involved in a lot of different, from the executive side to the recruiting side. I would love to hear just from you some things that you guys are doing to work with underrepresented groups as well to source and hire.
Absolutely. And we also revamped our or redesigned our career site with, a spotlight on ID&E. And I think one thing worth mentioning as well is our CEO joined the Action for Diversity and Inclusion
Nice.
coalition. More than 1,000 CEOs have joined, and really looking to cultivate workplaces that support, open dialogue and on complex and difficult conversations about equality and inclusivity. So, I think that speaks volumes. We also created our Employee Resource Committee. We also have our ERG groups. We had 4 initially. We've added 4 others. Our ERGs work closely together, the recruiting chairs, to ensure that everyone is promoting opportunities through their networks as well as social. So definitely, an area that we are passionate about.
I love that. And I love the takeaways from that as well too. The idea of the executive involvement, bring everything together as well is critical. I know, when I was interviewing, for me, it was very important to find a company that was very committed to inclusion, diversity, and equity as well. And with Intel, I always like to joke that, hey, as a white male in every software company I've worked at, everybody looks like me on the executive team. At Intel, there's only one person that looks like me. I'm surrounded by individuals that are extremely talented from different backgrounds, and everybody pushes everybody to be better as well too. And I think you could definitely talk about diversity, equity, inclusion being important, but you've got to practice it also. I know, one of the things I'm very proud of is in the last year that I've been at Intello, over 80% of our hires to customer success have all come from underrepresented groups. So we've got a really rich and amazing team that impacts the customers we work with. But everybody we hire brings different viewpoints, different ideas, and I love that it's like, hey, there's no bad ideas. Let's try something different. Let's put it out there, because we're talking today about finding hidden talent pools. We did a webinar 6 months ago. That was one of our most popular webinars, but it was on inclusion and building an inclusive culture. And that's critical as well too, because if you hire the best people, but you don't keep them, you got to look at the entire process. So I love hearing that from you. I think that's really important.
I think one of the other things too that's important is that in each of the ERG groups, we have executive leaders that are champions of those groups, which is critical as well.
Yeah, and we've got some questions from the audience as well too. Could you give examples of building successful diversity inclusion campaigns in areas like cybersecurity or cloud, where female candidates are in a small percentage? Great question from Dillian. If anybody wants to take that one, or.
I know that we here at Deluxe are partnering with a number of associations, groups, as it relates to women in data, just to name one of those. But we also partner with some professional development networks as well to continue to build those relationships and inroads to ensure that we are, as Pretty talked about, ensuring that we're creating those inroads and just networking to build those better relationships and strong relationships.
That's a good call on it. And I'll say, one of my favorite experiences, I worked very closely with a company for several years, from a 500-person cybersecurity company to now a global company in cybersecurity. They went IPO a few years ago, one of the most successful IPOs. We built several campaigns, everything, and especially in cybersecurity, I know it's very challenging. I think it's having real content that addresses the audience. The same campaign you're going to send to a group of sales professionals is going to be different than a group of engineers. So knowing your audience, having as much as you can real representation. They were very good to have like live videos and snippets of like a day in the life of like a female cybersecurity engineer, all these different things that showed the reality of like, this is what my 24 hours, this is what my day is like. These are my challenges, but these are also things that I love and that I'm building towards as well too. And then having that creative content and that messaging, it really resonated. Again, very happy to take this, to work with the company and the head of talent acquisition to go from a 500-person company to now, a few thousand employees, IPO success. They're now across different continents. And again, having that critical touch of the authenticity is really, really important. So we could probably spend a lot of time there as well, but hopefully that helps. All right, let me bring up the show some data to support what we're talking about as well too. One moment. And Brittany, I love the idea of bringing the different ERGs together as well, or all the different, for both of you. I was actually at a breakfast this morning with a TA leader that I worked with when I was head of sourcing for our division at Salesforce, and she was saying that she works very closely with a large healthcare group, and they were saying that with a lot of the things that they're doing right now for initiatives, they brought together all the different ERG representatives from their different religions. So they had groups from the Catholic organization with groups from Muslim, from Jewish, everybody coming together to think about like how to address the pandemic, how to address the idea of coming back to work, the idea that you had all these different people from ERGs like giving suggestions with the executive team sitting down. It was really critical. And she's like, what an amazing world where everyone's trying to look for the good of the company and working together for what we're doing. It's really powerful.
Yeah, I also agree, Andre, on that point, where you could reach out to external organizations. So the ERGs, they could actually get in touch with these external organizations which are like, there are a lot of organizations like Society of Women Engineers, or, you can also look at NAP, which is an Asian Association of people, all of that you could do externally, kind of create a relationship first through an ERG. You could do that and then kind of bring talent from there. So that could be one more approach to do that.
That's really creative. And I know one of the customers we work with is like a tech Fortune 50 company, and they're doing a lot of work to do hidden talent pools and sourcing for Indigenous people and Native Americans. And so one of the things they're doing as well is they're looking at the idea that they're using Intel on our Chrome extension, which is applicable to LinkedIn, but also like 50 different sites. But meetups, there's a lot of like different Native American meetup groups that also are a great place to start conversations with individuals. There's a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of different places that are outside of the normal things you would think of to just start the conversation, to have that, and again, leading to a lot of good conversations. Then again, having the content that is applicable for the group you're reaching out to, and that authenticity is so critical.
I think the leaders too, I mean, they many times have platforms that they can also make awareness and inroads as well to talk about the opportunities within the organization, but the organization's commitment to ID&E as well.
Yeah, and I love that the trend is moving closer to like starting with inclusion, right? I love that. I love seeing more of that. What we're talking about it as well too, because it's so critical. And I think we wanted to, we talked earlier. Intel has 550 million different candidate profiles. We're pulling data from everywhere from our analysis, and we can see from the trends we're seeing from the data. And it's really neat to see the last 3 years, diversity searches have increased by 200%. So we're seeing all the different increases, and I think everyone's kind of used to seeing a lot of things featured in the tech sector, but also it's all over the place. So I wanted to share that as well. And I will say one thing. I've had a lot of calls. I had a call with the head of TA and a friend of mine the other day, and she said, I just got put in charge of diversity for our company. I said, great. What does that entail? And she's like, I don't know. And so there's a lot of folks that are being asked to be put in charge of different initiatives that are still kind of getting their bearings. I will say, from talking to hundreds of customers, everybody is at a different stage in their diversity journey. Nobody has it 100% figured out. Everyone's learning from each other. Everyone's at a different stage. And the important thing is that we're on that journey together. We're all working towards a more inclusive and equitable world. So don't feel discouraged if you're just starting out. If you hear things today that people are doing, they're like, wow, that's a great idea. We're not even close to that. That's okay. As long as you're moving towards that. Again, we want to be a resource. And again, hopefully there's a lot of takeaways today. And I wanted to share this slide. This was really cool. So we looked at trends over the first 6 months of each year from the last 3 years, and to see where we were seeing the largest amount of DEI recruiting trends. And what I loved is the number one, the biggest jump we've seen for diversity searches are staffing agencies. That speaks to me because a staffing agency is staffing agencies are recruiting for all jobs across all companies, and it really lends weight to the idea that the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, the inclusion initiatives, everything is critical now across the board to see these folks really focused in on that. And then behind that, a huge jump in financial services and insurance. We work with a lot of large companies there. And then again, we talked about it earlier, healthcare and pharmaceutical, to see the jumps and the increase. Like, these aren't small jumps. These are huge swings in the right direction for diversity searches. So I'd love to, just hear any stories from you, Preeti or Margie, over the last couple of years where you've really seen kind of a difference. I know you talked about the executive sponsor from the top, but again, anything you've seen to kind of change from a methodology from your recruiting and sourcing teams the last 3 years to really kind of make sourcing more of a key element. Either one of you can go first. Oh.
So I would say, over the course of the past several years, our commitment has certainly grown, right, front and center. And we are, and we'll talk about this in just a bit, as far as, university relations, early career, some as well, but just, partnering with professional diversity networks, ensuring that we are involved in consortium of colleges and universities that are represented across the spectrum. And as I mentioned, our CEO has joined this group as well. And so we are, we've seen, a stronger commitment to it, as well as focus. And, we're expanding our reach and inroads, and really just excited about this being a focus for us going forward.
No, I love that. You've teed up your section really well. So we'll go into that. And Nelson, I see your question. I'm gonna definitely address it here in the next section, but really appreciate that as well too. 1 second. So we talked about underrepresented groups as a core talent pool, as our first headed talent pool, and that's probably its own separate webinar. So appreciate all of that. But what I wanted to share as well is that when you think about kind of another core hidden talent pool are early in career. Now, this traditionally used to be on-campus university recruiting, even to the point where it was, the first like 0 to 4 years into your professional career. But we're seeing, this is such a critical area where companies are investing even more, not only in these sectors, but also even going down to start marketing to high school students. And the data backs it up as well too. The beauty of the world is that the world is changing. It's constantly moving in a different direction. And the reality is, your company's next great hire for the next generation is more likely to be from an underrepresented group or to have a better talent pool than you have currently. Because if you look at the U.S. population by race and ethnicity, you can see where we were right now, but where we're predicted to grow as well too. That the nation's child population is more diverse than its total population, and again, that leads to a greater pool of candidates to talk to. And I saw Nelson had a really good comment I wanted to call out. Nelson, you mentioned a really good point that you said, if your internship programs keep recruiting interns from the same traditional higher education institutions, you're heading the wrong direction regarding your DEI initiatives. I'll say that from the large companies that we work with, part of our QBRs is actually to analyze exactly where the hires are coming for. And we actually give a call out when it's only from those traditional universities versus looking at HBCU or looking at a different place that they would not traditionally look at. And that's been a really good takeaway to give actionable items to not just recruit from the same Ivy League school, to the same Stanford, the same different areas in that capacity. So I love your call out, and 100% we're using that, and we're applying that as well as we have the conversations with different talent leaders on ways that they can increase what they're doing. So I really appreciate you calling that out. And again, we've got some amazing presentations where we talk about that. We actually can show. Beauty of Intel is we can drill down for all the badges, all the different influence hires that are made from the different sectors, and really come back and say, this went well, here's an area of improvement. So I really appreciate that. So Margie, you've done an amazing job building early career programs, influencing university programs. Would love to hear some of the great things that you've done at Deluxe as well, and what your team is applying.
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention is our social media strategist is really continuing to build out our brand as it relates to Gen Z, and really understanding what drives them, right? So some things she's working on are related to TikTok and other social, if you will. But as far as the campus and university relations, some of the things that we've done, I mean, obviously, well, not obvious, we have an internship program
Sure.
giving interns meaningful work. And in another life, I had the internship program report into me. We were meeting with the interns regularly to understand what they were working on to ensure that the work that they were doing was meaningful and impactful and challenging. And many times you don't necessarily have to start from, ground floor, right? You can build off of something that you've already got in place. For example, if you have an internship program, you can't buy the talent, you can't borrow the talent, you've got to build it. An internship program is an excellent way to begin a professional development program where you have interns come in and they're there for 2 summers and over breaks if at all possible. But when they're ready to graduate, you extend an offer, they're at a specialist level because the work that they've been doing is meaningful and impactful, and they've been brought in. They're not kind of isolated on just projects. They're really meshing with the team, understanding the organization at a deeper level, but also understanding where their passion lies and where their talents can be best utilized within the organization. So they're getting to know your organization, understanding what they want to do, because at times they may not necessarily know what they want to do with their economic or math
Hey, English major
major.
right here.
Right. So, I mean, this is a great way, these professional development programs. We are piloting one right now in our IT group. And so we're excited about that. Previously, we've done that as part of our recruitment strategy and another talent pool to extend offers to our interns as specialists after a 2-year internship. And it's been great. So we've been able to build talent, skills in an area that we couldn't find externally. It just wasn't available. So it has to be a deliberate strategy as well. And it does take time to build, but you don't always have to go back. Like I said, you can leverage internship programs that you have today, begin to build that as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That's awesome. And I think about the impact that programs made on so many lives, whether they end up with you long-term or not, they'll give the foundation of their professional development. One of the neater things I've been a part of on our side is where I live here in Indiana. There's it's a good tech community, but they started a program 4 years ago that we helped pilot and be a part of, where it took graduating high school seniors. It gave them the 8 weeks between graduating high school and going away to Indiana University, Purdue, community college, wherever it was. But it took high performing individuals that from all different backgrounds. And we had probably 10 interns over a 4-year period, all from underrepresented groups. But we made sure they weren't getting coffee. They were never bringing us breakfast. We would give them marketing work. We would give them data analysis work. We would give them 4 different disciples. And I'll tell you, I just had coffee with one of the former interns over the summer. She got an internship with the United Nations, but she's like, the foundation to go into college before I was a freshman and I worked for a tech company and I did data analysis, I did marketing, I did whatever. It let her have instant credibility among her sophomore and junior year classmates. And I encourage, if there's any programs locally you can do like that, that is an extremely impactful 6 to 8 weeks you can give to a future hire or a future individual to give a foundation and a skill set to say, now I've used Salesforce, now I've used Intello, now I've used like these key tools that'll set me up for the future. So again, I love hearing that. And Preeti, no, go ahead, Margie.
Oh, I was just going to say, and they're brand ambassadors, right? Their experience, they tell their friends. And so, it's great win-win. So.
Yeah, no, 100%. I did a presentation in San Francisco before the world became crazy at the last conference I was presenting at, but it was from the dorm room to the boardroom. It was all about going from on campus to bringing in talent, to nurturing them to grow and develop into your next generation of executives. And I think that could probably be in its own separate topic as well. But I want to make sure Preeti has a chance to weigh in as well too, because I'm sure she's got a lot of good insight here as well.
Yeah, so Intuitive is actually does have a very robust internship program. And we do have a co-op program that runs in our Raleigh, North Carolina location. So every year, I would say we have around 80 to 100 interns and for our summer program. And we normally target from 25 to 50 diversity schools. But the intern to full-time conversion is really strong. It's like around 80% of conversion happens. Yeah. And recently, I think the university hiring team, they have been engaged with a lot of schools and so diverse schools, and 3 are from one of the top 10 schools from US. And they're trying to kind of target Black and Latin engineering groups, and these are all STEM undergrads, and these are from the top 10 schools, Hispanic institutions as well. And the third one is the HBCU, and they have all these career fairs coming up in fall. So a lot of great initiatives has been going on, and they have been using the handshake tool in order to kind of create that kind of relationship with the candidates and kind of bringing in more candidates into the company. So those are some of the initiatives. And also I feel that one of the things that could be done, and actually it's one of the initiative that Intuitive already has. So why not create an alumni database of these people? You know, like some of these candidates, they must have moved to different companies, and if you have their names there, if you have engaged with them, you know where they are. So you can actually catch them early, in their career path and kind of motivate them to come and join your company. So why not create an alumni database of the candidates that have been interning at your organization or have been a co-op at your organization? So those are some of the things that are currently going on at Intuitive.
I love that. You teed up our next section perfectly on candidate re-engagement. So that's we timed that. One second. I think that's critical, right? I think that's one of the benefits of the current state is that, groups are working a lot closer together, right? It's no longer is university recruiting just siloed, right? Across from sourcing and recruiting, everyone's interacting more. And I think one of my favorite stories was I worked with a 200,000 person company that had a great internship program, but they did a great program where whoever wasn't an intern, that if they talked to screen everybody, they would still keep a pool of their silver medalists warm, and they would do candidate re-engagement. And they would do a large it was personalized name, but it was a lot of content, a lot of interactive content, featuring interns that were now getting hired, promoted, all the different things from the different areas. And they did that once a quarter. And this individual came back and said, hey, you know what? 3 years later, I'm very interested. I can't believe you never gave up on me. He didn't know he was part of like an automated campaign that went out, a mailer that went out every quarter. It felt he had a personal touch every few months from the company that he interned with. He turned it down. Well, the hiring manager said, this is fantastic. He's actually a much stronger candidate with 3 years of experience at our number one competitor than he was coming right out of college. So we're getting an even stronger person by just doing an automated email campaign and outreach. And that's where I think, we talked a lot about passive talent pools. The reality is we're all sitting on a gold mine of applicants that we can re-engage as those kind of silver medalist candidates that we have. And that's an area what you just touched on. We're seeing that so much more, especially during the pandemic. It's been really critical to see. And a good friend of mine works for a very large global company of which my family gets a package almost every day from. But he was saying they get close to 2,000 applicants on average per job requisition. When you think about that, whether it's, whether you're seeing twice the number of applicant flow or whether you're seeing huge numbers, if you're carrying 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 recs, it's impossible to get to everybody. But what you can do is look at ways to augment that group and automate as well too. And I think one of the neater stories that I've seen is during kind of the first year in Tello is we partnered with a customer, a large customer that they had a idea of, they wanted to re-engage a core group of candidates. They actually had 1,000 individuals that were impacted by COVID. They created a multi-touch campaign for both email and SMS, because we all know, especially pretty from a sourcing standpoint, it's great if if the first reach out you get somebody, but really it's reach out 2, 3, 4, or 5, and they might come back to you. They might reread your email a week later or whatever as well too. So it's really finding the right content at the right time to engage with them. We did that, and the results are the best that I've ever seen in 15 years of talent acquisition. They had an 82% open rate. The industry average for recruiting emails reaching out is around 24%. They had a 1,500% improved click-through rate compared to what the average was. And they actually had, out of 1,000 people they reached out to, almost 600 reapplied for core roles. So when you think about that, you could be sitting on a gold mine, whether you do a lot of active sourcing or not. you literally could have a huge amount of talent in your applicant pool right now that you could come back and look at. Some folks go to the point of saying, hey, we make sure everybody that comes, everybody that, that gets to a final interview stage, we want that group to stay warm, because you think about the recruiting funnel, you've got so many applicants, you interview, you screen, you do all these things to get down to that final stage. And then 3 months later, when Pretty has the same role open up, she might start from scratch again. Well, why not go back to that pool you've been keeping warm of those like already vetted candidates and take your time to fill from 90 days to like 5 to 7 days, right? Improves your time to fill, gives you quality hires. I know, Pretty, you do a lot of really neat stuff at Intuitive, so we'd love to hear your thoughts, and Marty's on that as well too.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to say, Andre, I really love the drip campaigns that Entelo provides. So those are very, very helpful, and we've been using a lot in our team. And also in regards to re-engaging candidates, I think it's always best to tag them like a silver medalist, or, kind of tag them in a way so that you would know and you would be able to send automated messages to them. Talking about automation, I would not overrule the fact that don't reach out to the candidate personally. So please give a call to the candidate. That really matters.
I'll touch.
Yeah, call them and ask them if they're open to engage with you on social media. Be in touch with them on social media. And also don't hesitate to be transparent and give a feedback, like why they were a first runner-up or why they were a silver medalist. So they are prepared in the next one to be that gold candidate. So don't forget to do that. And also I would say, like, put those candidates in the fast track. It's very, very important to put them in the fast track so they are prepared for the next one. And also they do not reapply to your future roles. That's something that you really need to take care of.
Yeah.
If you are having your silver medalist reapplying to future roles, and then there's a big problem. So always try to tag them and kind of re-engage them, call them, and keep them warm all the time. So those are some of the things that we have been doing, and we have been using Entelo a lot in that process.
I love that. I think the more data you have as well too. I know for anybody on here that does, and that, yeah, phenomenal suggestion, Pretty. For anyone here that does any sales recruiting or sourcing, I know I've worked with a lot of companies. We did this practice when I was head of sourcing for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Understanding when the trips are. So we actually knew all of our competitors when their President's Club, was it called President's Club? Was it called VIP? Whatever it was. And we could literally track on social media. We knew the week they were going to be away in Hawaii for their President's Club. We could then look for those keywords on Twitter and then get their social media, find out, hey, they're a big Notre Dame fan, they're a big Indianapolis Colts fan. Have a personal reach out to that. And if they'd applied before, find out, hey, congratulations, I know you applied a few years ago, didn't quite work out. Just saw you made President's Club, you're exactly what we're looking for. And we know that in sales, that when you hit President's Club, the benefit is a lot of fun stuff, but you come home and your quota is increased and your territory is reduced. So all of a sudden your job gets a lot harder. So it's a great time to reach out and have conversations. So Margie, I'd love to hear how the team at Deluxe is doing as well for kind of re-engagement.
So that's great. You mentioned sales. I mean, we keep in touch as well with individuals that we've spoken with who have a non-compete, and maybe they're locked down on a non-compete for a year. We will stay in touch with them because we know that non-compete is going to expire at some point, and just ensure that we keep the door open for the dialogue. The other thing is too, we know when they're when bonuses are being paid or commissions or variable incentives, right? So we know that they're not going to make any move between January, until the end of March, because they're not going to miss out on what they've earned, right? This variable. So just knowing that information, knowing, details around their non-competes, just all that information is critical and certainly applicable, in this market. But it's not just that data, it's also networking. I was thinking about the word consultant, right? What does a consultant do? They're an expert. So you really need to, understand the market from all mediums, leverage your agency partners. Hey, we're seeing this in the market. Are you seeing this in the market? Just, leveraging all data points to help you continue to evolve and innovate.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. That's fantastic. So, all right, we've got 10 minutes to go. I'm going to give the bonus talent pool to show everybody, and then we're going to go through the poll results and open it up for Q&A. So give me one moment. right, so if we look at, so this is, we wanted to give you a you could walk away with a hidden talent pool. Your next great hire can be from a talent pool you might have not considered. So this talent pool is #1 for America's most affordable cities, the #1 best city for remote workers, #5 best city to launch a career, 3rd best city for jobs, over 250,000 college students within a 3-hour drive, and a pretty darn affordable median home price. Any guesses from the audience where this hidden talent pool could be? All right. Believe it or not, your next great hire could be from Indianapolis. I wanted to share this because I've spent my entire career working for a lot of companies based in Silicon Valley, but working out of Indianapolis. And I think it's been great to see Salesforce make Indianapolis their 2nd biggest hub. You can see that you might, whether you work for a company in San Francisco today or a company on the East Coast or someone that's different, and you look regionally, look different places. There might be places in the Midwest. Indianapolis is a huge tech hub to walk away from. So you see some of the companies that have invested in Indianapolis. Salesforce is the 2nd largest hub they have in North America. Infosys has a huge location here with 3,000 jobs. And what I love, the last thing is JobVite. So the company I worked for in between Intello and Salesforce was JobVite. We use JobVite at Salesforce, and I was the first employee in Indiana, and now it's the company headquarters. So again, it's really, if you're thinking of a different place to recruit from, you might want to check it out. And just for fun, we ran kind of the talent pool inside in Intello. If you wanted to look for a software developer and you wanted to go by the filter for underrepresented groups for diversity, there's over 14,000 folks available right now. And you can see, huge university talent. And what I think is the biggest takeaway for a lot of folks that are used to having, high budget for competitive positions, the average cost for doing business, the average tech salary in Indianapolis is less than $81,000. So a really good place to find really qualified talent you might have not considered before. So we'll make sure everybody has access to a lot of these slides today. But again, wanted to share kind of a hidden talent pool. Marjorie, any secrets, any other hidden talent pools you've discovered in the last 1.5 years of areas you haven't considered before, or anything that's been a different region you're kind of looking at? And you don't have to reveal your secrets if you don't want to. So I know.
I can share something. So we do have, very hard to fill niche roles in Intuitive, and sometimes it's really difficult to find underrepresented talent. So whenever we look at Intello or any other tool where we kind of pull in the talent pool report, we always see like a 2% or 3% of diverse talent. So what we have tried to do is kind of expanding the tool further. The pool further. So what we did is like kind of mix and matching the skill sets and kind of working around the skill sets in such a way so that we have a bigger pool of candidates. So we were able to do that for a few of our recs. And I think that's one way to look at when you are working with the tool and you're coming across a talent pool which is kind of really small and you're not finding those skill sets. Try to expand the skill sets, try to work with your hiring manager. So at this time, it is very important for the hiring manager, the recruiter, and the sourcer to be together, to work collaboratively. Like if you're really looking at diverse teams, you need to implement that. So you need to work collaboratively together. Like, how do I kind of increase this talent pool? So that's something that I have done recently with one of my recs. So I just wanted to share that.
I love that. What the idea of expanding the skill set, reaching out. I think that, anytime you can do that, not be so original, it has to be exactly these key things to expand that out. You're going to broaden the talent pool and find different folks as well too. I love that. Thanks, Preeti. Margie, anything that you want to add to that?
I would just agree with Preeti, that collaborative relationship that you have with your hiring manager. In days past, the hiring manager didn't want to know anything going on behind the scenes, right? They just wanted the candidates. Now this is, an integrated approach where we all have to come together to get creative around talent, just based on the market and the demands of the business. So
I absolutely love it. That's great, Margie. And I think it's everybody's working together, which is really impactful. All right, well, we'll get to the Q&A. Wanted to share the poll results. So really need to see, when we asked everybody early on, over half of you said underrepresented talent pools were the #1 talent pool you wanted to focus on for the rest of the year. Love seeing that. We saw 21% job family specific. I love seeing the 18% towards the silver medalist, the re-engagement, and the 9% early in career talent. So hopefully everybody had some good takeaways from a lot of different things that were shared today, but let's definitely use the time left over to go into some of the questions we have. So please list your questions in the Q&A, and I'll put those right now. So we've got, let's see, so we had somebody anonymous say, can we get copies of these stats to share with the managers? If you want to reach out directly to what stats you're asking about, we're more than happy to share some of that information as well too. This is a great question from Evan. How do you get upper management or people in senior positions to buy on DEI hiring and relay how important it is to them? So I'll let one of you take that on, unless. So how do you get upper management to, and there's, or people in senior positions to buy into DEI hiring and to relay how important it is to them?
Well, I mean, this is top level CEO, right? He's
Yeah.
heavily involved and engaged. I mean, this is who we are as a culture, as an organization. So there was no selling involved. This is who we want to be as an organization. So, I would say that the commitment is to continue to live your brand every day, right? And your culture and environment, and to you make a commitment and you do what you say and say what you mean. So that's a huge part of it. But here at Deluxe, I mean, our CEO has, this is at the very top. But I think it is a commitment, and it does take a collaboration and education, as well as conversations, and all of that to really come together as an organization, because this is a commitment.
Yeah. Go ahead, Preeti.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to Margie, the main thing that you could do is education. You have to educate your hiring managers. You have to educate your upper management. If they are not understanding, they're really out of this race. Because let's be transparent. Let's look at what's changed within the last 2 years. After what happened last year, I think most of the organizations have moved up the ladder. So if you are not doing that, you are out of the race. So it's very, very important for them to, for the recruiters and the sources to kind of educate the hiring manager. And that comes to the talent acquisition VP or whoever is the leader out there. Needs to be very strategic, very futuristic, looking at what direction the organization is going on based on the culture and the brand aspect, taking together all of that objective into action, and kind of educating the upper management to the level that hey, this is what is going on, so let's do that. You have to start. So it has to start somewhere. If it doesn't start, then there would not be many ideas or strategies in place.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think those are all good takeaways. I think, Evan, my biggest advice to you is to, one thing that was drilled into me as a TA leader at Salesforce, every department in Salesforce, the rule was bring data to the table for any meeting. Don't come to any meeting without data to back it up. And if you simply look, you can see the benefits of having a broader group of talent at your company and what that does to the bottom line financially. And we're happy to send some statistics to you afterwards. Feel free to reach out to us. I'll see if Laura can also here, as we close things out, share our LinkedIn profiles again for everybody to connect with the speakers. But the reality is, in Q2 of last year, the calls that were done for executive companies going into kind of reviewing kind of the results for publicly traded companies, DEI was mentioned on 4% of the calls. 1 quarter later, it was 40% of the calls. That this is something that every executive is now discussing with Wall Street ahead of earnings. So diversity, equity, inclusion along with diversity and equity, however your company phrases it, is now, it has the attention of Wall Street. It has the attention of all the executive leaders, because they also know how important it is to have a good program that includes that, to make the company stronger and to put you in a good foundation to be in a better place for the world. So again, happy to share additional information after with you. But again, if you just do a quick Google search, there's a lot of really powerful statistics and really thoroughly researched reports that have the data to back up on how critical that is as well too. So again, I really appreciate that. So let's see if there's any more questions. There's another Q&A question. 1 second. Somebody also asked, what was your conversion rate for to full-time employees for interns last year? I don't know if anybody, you don't have to share those stats. Margie or Preeti, someone was trying to ask what your conversion rate was, but.
It was 80%, I would say, 80%.
Oh, wow, 80%. Okay, so 80%, that's great. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. We really appreciate it. We'll make sure you've got a copy of everything that we have. For all those folks that are out there that are current customers, we actually have live webinars next week to take a lot of the, if you said, hey, I love seeing the thing Pretty mentioned about talent pool insights, I want to learn more about that. We actually have 2 live sessions next week for existing TA leaders and individuals, or new hires as well too. So you can definitely register. We'll share the link to that registration for everybody to take back their teams also. But a huge thank you to Margie and Preeti and our audience today. We could have gone on for another hour. We're going to make sure this deck is available and the key data points are available to everybody afterwards. And we'll also make sure if there's any questions you asked that we weren't able to get to, we'll make sure we as a team collectively get answers back to you. And hopefully we all connect on LinkedIn as well too, and keep the conversation going. I think what I love most about these webinars is we get reach out 6 months after folks asking questions. So think of us as a broader talent acquisition community. And we're all here to help each other grow. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much, everybody, and Margie and Preeti especially. What a wonderful webinar, and thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.